Aloha mai kako, a Komomata Curtain Call, a program of reviews, previews, interviews, and features of and or with the great art and artists on Maui and beyond. I'm Paul James Brown. Well, today's curtain call is going to be a little different. When Georgy Gusev, the internationally renowned cellist, told me about his little program that he's planning on Sunday at ProArts Playhouse, I was intrigued. And so I thought we should get together and have a chat, because he has with him today one of the most infamous villains in the history of cinema, a man who appeared with James Bond and in Die Hard. His name is Andreas Wisniewski, and I would like Georgy to introduce him.
Hi, Paul.
Aloha, Georgy.
I'm so glad we're here, yes. So Andreas and I, we actually preparing a program, and I thought it would be very interesting to see this man on stage of the ProArts, because he is an actor, and to me he is more the theatrical actor than the film actor, even though I grew up watching all the films of James Bond, Die Hard, Mission Impossible, etc. But I'm also happy that he is my very dear friend, and I wouldn't call it a mentor, and he doesn't allow me to say that, but he in some way actually is, because the fact that I came to the United States only thanks to him, because he was the only person I asked for an advice before coming to the California.
Really?
And he said yes, so that's why I'm here.
I didn't know that.
Basically, thanks to Andreas.
And now you've been on Maui for how many years now?
Almost 4 years, about 4 years. Yeah, I came first time in 2019. And September, that's when we met.
Yes. And now you've been coming to Maui for now 4 years now.
I actually became a Maui resident, which is, I'm very happy.
And we're happy about it as well. So you're in Rome and you're in Los Angeles and on Maui. Is that pretty much your...
Pretty much, yeah. My parents, you know, my girlfriend, she's still stuck in Moscow, so I'm trying to get her here, but we're working on it.
Oh, we'll look forward to that, that's for sure. So, Andreas, welcome. I'm very happy to have you here today. Tell me, is this your first time on Maui?
Hi, Paul. Thanks for having me and us. No, it isn't my first. It's my second time. I was here almost exactly 27 years ago. I remember distinctly because I was working on a television job, and I was hoping that I'd make it back for the birth of my first son, and I did, just about.
That's really great. I'm glad to hear that. And you told me before that there was a tragedy that happened with your first child. Tell the audience a little bit about that.
Yeah, I had a daughter who got ill when she was only 3, and died within a month. And
she died from
some obscure tumor that basically no one had ever heard of.
She died from liver cancer.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
And in the literature, they'd never seen a child die from liver cancer.
From that type, that's correct, yes.
The only child in the world who had that experience.
Quite possibly, yeah. Yes, it was very strange, and the whole thing took a month, and she sort of expired. It was sort of a tornado of a disease.
And that caused you to leave the film industry, is that right?
To some extent. I mean, I never really decided to quit, but I needed to reprioritize. I needed to look at what mattered in my life, and most important to me, it turned out, was to dig into what had happened and what it meant, and look at what I was going to do with it.
And how did you do that?
It was quite strange. I sort of had the urge to sit still. Basically, naturally found meditation, because whenever I did that, I felt my daughter's presence. And so I started doing it on a regular basis, and someone then gave me a book, and said, you can work with this. And it was a Tibetan book, and I started making a practice out of this, sitting just with the presence of my dead daughter, and that sort of ballooned and became a huge part of my life, to the extent that I'm now a monk ordained in one of the Zen schools.
So incredible, difficult, never before heard of disease brought you to a higher level of consciousness.
That's how I like to look at it, yes. She's my private bodhisattva who forced me to look deeper.
It's really remarkable that you were able to take this horrible tragedy and turn it into a practice that's benefiting not just you, but others as well.
I hope so.
Well, you have students, don't you?
I have had. I don't currently have any, but I have had, yes.
Yeah. And so what brought you to Maui this time?
Partially the continuation of what we were just talking about. I'm going on a retreat on the Big Island for the second week.
And what do you hope to get out of that?
Absolutely nothing.
No expectations whatsoever.
That's right.
It's all about what is, right? Where you are and being in the present. That's really what it's all about.
You obviously done that.
A little bit, but not anywhere near the level or the concentrated way in which you have. That's for sure.
Don't overestimate me.
And you go back to Germany after that.
That's correct.
Yeah. And you're living there now, and that's where you come from originally.
That's true. That's true. Born and raised.
But you lived in the United States for a while.
I did.
And in L.A.
In L.A. and in New York.
And in New York. And did you work in New York?
No.
No.
No, I never got around to that. I had to sort my visa and all that. Yeah.
So you never did any theater there?
No, I didn't.
And you've just done film work, pretty much?
No, I do come from the theater.
But you were a dancer, right?
I was a ballet dancer once, and so the transition to doing something on stage was the easiest. And I had the fortune to work with a man who, we call it total theater. That means whatever is possible may be requested. And he liked to work with dancers because of their heightened physical abilities. And then, I had to start working on my voice and using it as a tool rather than it just being a nuisance. And that slowly opened the door. And then how I got onto film was just luck.
Luck?
Being in the right place at the right time.
Well, that's all. Yeah, that's all. But I mean, did you get like did you see a notice and apply, or?
No. It was even
Did you have an agent?
More incidental than that. I went to a party, and there was Ken Russell, who was a very well-known British director.
Yes.
And he came up to me and said, "I might have a part for you." And that was it. That sort of got me going. It's not entirely true. I'd done a student film in Germany and had had a little bit of camera experience, but really not much.
And what film did Ken Russell have for you?
It wasn't even a film. It was a music video to start with. Although I ended up working with him several times, but this was. The music video of Nikita, Elton John.
And you're in that?
I am.
Well, everybody
East
check
German
that out.
border officer.
A very like a cameo kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And you have the lines?
No.
You're just there.
A song.
Yeah.
I'm just there. That's it.
So your physical presence is the thing that really got you the work?
I suppose.
No, you don't seem to be a very evil person. Why do you think that they...
Well, little do you know.
Why do you think that they saw that in you?
Well, there is, of course, a certain stereotype with being associated with being tall and blonde and German. That's undeniable. I think that had something to do with it.
Yeah.
But we thought that, you know, there was these times when sort of an era where the villains were sort of Germanic, and then came a time where they tended to be Arabs, and I don't know where we're at right now, but they are sort of these eras, and I just happened to be around when they were looking for, you know, Germanic villains.
Do you think that the stereotypical thing is going away in cinema?
Could be. Although, of course, there's you know, there's always. I mean, in some way, I embrace that because stereotypics always make things flatter and less deeply dimensional. But there's also a flip side to it, right? I mean, in these iconic, say, the Bond movies, you have expectations, and you want those expectations to be fulfilled, don't you?
But when we think about the infinite possibilities of reality, any human being is capable of anything, really.
That's very deep, and I have to agree with that. Yes, but somehow you in a Bond movie you don't want someone who's completely off expectations to be the, you know, the mega villain of the world.
But that's a really interesting thing, because what is it about a physical presence that determines behavior in a literary sense, in a cinematic sense? Why do we see certain stereotypes as being evil and other stereotypes as being good?
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is, of course, if someone is imposing, there's a possibility that they might hurt you. So that's quite a sort of visceral thing. Beyond that, you know, I've come to understand that the biggest part of the world is built for small people. Like
that's true.
Airline seats.
Oh
for
yes,
instance.
please don't get me started. Don't get me started. I'm actually planning on suing the airlines on behalf of all people over 6'3". I'm looking for a class action against them, because I mean it's very uncomfortable to be on the airlines unless you want to pay extra, basically, and then they're, you know.
And isn't that unfair? Why should tall people pay more?
I agree.
Do they get paid more in their job? Apparently they do a bit.
Well,
but also in restaurants, right? They get the same size meal.
Absolutely.
Is that fair?
No. I mean, being a tall person, I understand, you know, and I always get cast as an evil person in the plays that I do as well. So I understand what you've gone through in your life.
But traveling all the way here from Germany, I couldn't possibly do it without seeing Georgy. And by the way, he's got it completely wrong. He's the boss, you know. And when he knew I was coming, he said, "Let's do something." And so he does that.
But yes,
as you might know.
Yes. So Tree of Life, Georgy, tell us about it.
It all comes from one experience, very incomplete experience. Let me tell you the long story very short. The dear friend of Andreas, Betsy Lobinier, do I pronounce her last name correctly,
Yeah.
I hope? The poetess who lived in London now, as far as I know, she moved back to New York. I requested her to write a poem, His Cello's Lament, called this poem, for a show that Andreas and I are supposed to do together in Moscow in one of my festivals, which I used to hold there before the war. And Betsy wrote the lyrics, and I incorporated these lyrics to the existing piece of my teacher, Giovanni Sollima. And so had to perform it, but that performance never happened. So later, because I kind of felt...
Was that because of COVID?
No, it was not because of COVID. It was some problems in the organization of my festival and the other festival, which was at the same time in Moscow. So later, I decided to write my own music on base of this poem, and I call it Tree of Life. And I incorporated it in the sequence of songs, which I later performed and recorded with my dear friend Natalia Pavlova. That's why in our show we'll have also the poems from the mother of Natalia Pavlova, who is a fabulous poetess living in New York, Vera Pavlova. So we have these two living female poetesses, Betsy and Vera, and their lyrics will be presented in that show. But what I wanted to do, because you probably know, Paul, I love improvisation. And what I loved, we did it once in front of students in Moscow when I brought Andreas to gig to one of the most famous, post-Soviet acting schools in Moscow. And Andreas did an improvisation with them. And I was playing some music, and it was so fresh and natural. So that's why I thought, why don't we do something like that on Maui? Of course, we'll have the selected poems from the different eras and the different countries and the greatest poets from around the world. But what I will be doing as a musician, as a cellist, I will be mainly improvising in between. And what I want to bring together, it will be kind of sort of reflection at the moment. We want to invite all the listeners who will come to this show to be present in the most sense of this world, which is possible together with us there in that theater, and to be as maximum focused as they can be on the meanings through the poems, which some of them are not easy to understand at first. That's why I hope with my music I can help them to reflect after they hear the actual words and meanings, because everything will be read in English, even though there's some poetry in Farsi, there's some poetry in Russian, there's some poetry in Japanese language, but everything will be declamated or written, I don't know in which way Andreas will do that, in English. So we will just invite everybody who will join us to reflect on some of the most essential things in this life. And just this morning while we were rehearsing, Andreas brought a fabulous encore, I would call it, which we will put at the end of our program, which will be just a word piece, but it will be a joke together maybe with the listeners, with the public. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but it's amazing.
I don't know how we're gonna do it either.
So when you talk about the Tree of Life, I mean, what's the relationship between the poetry and the music in this?
I do believe that the music definitely is one of the most ancient art forms in the human history. And I do see this link. I was just chatting this morning with Andreas, why we humans, why do we need the poetry? Why do we need this rhythm or the melody of the language to express a message when you can just simply write it? Why do you need to find the frame, the phrase, the rhythm, etc.? And why it's so difficult to translate the poetry? Why it's almost impossible to bring exactly the same feeling as soon as you translate it into a different language? I think the music can help in some way, because it's really, you can see that when the music was written for the certain lyrics or the poem, it captures the feeling. When later you ask the singer to sing the same song but in different language, the music remains. So the music can be this essential link which actually capture the character of the melody of the original sound of the word in the original language.
And so that helps to bring deeper understanding?
I hope so.
To the audience and to the people that are experiencing it?
I hope so. That's something we will see on this Sunday.
So you've been coming to Maui now for 4 years, and you've been doing, and now you're a resident of Maui.
I'm very lucky to be.
And we're very happy about that, quite frankly. What else is going to be going on for you in the next, while you're here? You're here until what, April?
Yes, until end of April. May 1st, I have to be back in Italy. That's where we can meet with my girlfriend Christina, who actually helped to bring together all the poems. She is kind of the spirit of this performance, Tree of Life. But yes, before May, I'm here, and quite many shows are coming up soon. So please just stay tuned.
Do you have anything like specific that we can talk about?
Not really specific. I know that we have something coming up on the Hotel Wailea with Yasha Joe and Aerialists on April 2nd. I think that will be quite remarkable. So I have these 7 Aerialists doing their crazy, gorgeous stuff in the yoga room in Hotel Wailea, while I will be again improvising and playing some my own songs and famous classical pieces, helping to kind of understand this body language of the aerialists hanging on the silk robes.
So Andreas, you're going to be put on the spot on Sunday. How do you feel about the work that you're going to be doing?
Well, I'm going to embrace it. I don't know what I'm going to be embracing, but I'll just go for it. It's interesting. In some way, we have different views of what's going to happen and what the purpose in this is. But I don't find that to be a problem. To me, it's what music and poetry have in common is that they, and you may think I'm getting around the big problems here, but I like it simple. They both try to say the things that we can't say with ordinary words, and that for me is a fruitful combination of things. So what you might not get in the one art form, perhaps the other will elucidate.
And you think that that's going to be something that that the people here on Maui will embrace?
I wouldn't want to utter a guess, but my hope is that if we can present something that is open enough, then everybody can take what resonates with them. So it's not a matter of, ooh, I have to understand all this. I don't take that stance. It's more like, is there anything that speaks to me?
And how do you think that works in terms of the speech that comes from the stage then lands on the audience? How does that resonate?
Well, I'm hoping that. See, I kind of I'm cooking the dish, and Georgy has to serve it.
I think that works out pretty well. So Georgy, you brought your cello.
Yes.
How about we do a little cello?
Yes, we can do something, and what I was thinking, it will be kind of little example of what you all who come and see the show can expect. I want to bring the feeling of the studio just after listening you guys talking about things, and bring something out of this beautiful magic wooden box, which is actually tuned very strangely for many of you. It's a tuning G, G, D, G. So will sound quite mysterious and very double bass-ish, not the actual cello.
Well, that was really great. Thank you very, very much for that. I'm always in awe of the incredible talent that you have as a musician, and the sound that you get out of that. As the world's worst cellist, I understand the work that takes to bring it to that level. That's for sure.
You are welcome. Actually, you know, taking advance of this place, I want to ask you permission to use your cello as a second cello in our show.
Really?
Yes,
Oh,
because
of course.
I love the sound of your cello. You know, the
Well,
magic of this table for me, because both you play cello. Andreas also a cello
It
player.
always made me very upset when I heard you play my cello, and what you brought, what came out of it, and I was like, well, why can't I make it sound like that?
I can relate to this. And by the way, I have to disagree with you. I am the worst.
Oh no! No.
Unbeknownst.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'd be really happy. Thank you.
Mahalo.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So the show's on Sunday, and the 19th of March at 7 o'clock at ProArts Playhouse. And Monotone Radio is going to be a beneficiary of this program as well.
Very grateful to them.
And yes, the partnership between Monotone and ProArts is really quite wonderful, I might say, that's for sure. And people can get tickets by going to proartsmaui.org. I'd really like to thank you guys for coming. Thank you very much, Andreas. It was wonderful to meet you.
Thank you. Likewise. It's been a pleasure.
I look forward to hearing you on Sunday. And as always, Georgy.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank
we
you
love
so
you.
much. Yes. Well, that's Curtain Call for this week. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Paul James Brown. Ahui ho.